Latest fresh polls results showing Donald Trump may lose 2020 elections as he is getting unpopular. Donald Trump's big problem is that he's unpopular. Democrats should worry less about him and more about everything else on the ballot. If you look at Donald Trump's polling lately, it sure looks like he's in trouble for re-election. A June 11 Quinnipiac poll showed Trump losing 40 to 53 to Joe Biden. He's also down 51 to 42 to Bernie Sanders, 41 to 49 to Kamala Harris, 42 to 49 to Elizabeth Warren, 42 to 47 to Pete Buttigieg, and 42 to 47 to Cory Booker. All plausible contenders at this moment can take heart in the fact that just 40 to 42% of the population feels like voting for Trump's re-election. The public is mostly saying they want to vote for any Democrat, and the strongest pattern so far indicates better-known Democrats do better than the more obscure ones. None of this means that Trump is a sure bet to lose the election in 2020. Public opinion can change fast, and there's nothing particularly predictive about polling this far out, but it's a pretty clear snapshot of public opinion right now. Trump, for now, is unpopular. 538 CES polling average shows Trump currently has a 42% approval rating. He's unpopular and losing despite the huge field arrayed against him. He's unpopular and losing despite Democrats' confused message on impeachment, and he's unpopular and losing despite some very real continued ability to successfully manipulate the media. The head-to-head polling doesn't really tell us much about events 18 months in the future, but it does tell us there's no counterintuitive process whereby Trump secures the votes of tons of people who say he's doing a bad job as president. He is getting the votes of basically the exact same share of the population as thinks he's doing a good job. And as of now, that doesn't look like it's nearly enough people to win. Democrats are very anti-complacency after being taken by surprise in 2016. Ben LaBold, a former Barack Obama spokesperson who now works at a communications consulting firm, set a lot of heads on fire over the weekend with an Atlantic article charging that Democrats were blowing 2020 already. Trump is spending a ton of money on re-election ads, LaBold argued, and Democrats aren't running their anti-Trump ads yet. Obviously, consultants would love it if rich Democrats would turn their anti-Trump fervor into early ad spending, but whatever Trump is doing right now clearly isn't working. Saving resources for the future when he may hit upon something that does work and needs to be countered seems perfectly sensible. Rather than being either complacent or paralyzed by fear, Democrats should probably take a modest amount of reassurance from Trump's bad polls and try worrying about everything else for a minute. There are some things to worry about. Democrats have done pretty well in 2019 special elections, for example, but considerably worse than they did in 2017 and 2018. Their special surge in 2017 represented a huge increase in grassroots activism and energy in response to Trump's win. The 2019 backslide seems to reflect a post-midterms diminishment of that intensity. Yet in state elections this year in Virginia, Kentucky, and Louisiana, Medicaid expansion, and with it health care for tens of thousands of people will be on the line. These are tough elections about which available public polling has little to say and where time, energy, and money are likely to be extremely valuable. Then there's the 2020 Senate map. To govern in 2021, Democrats will need to win a long-shot Senate race or two, as well as winning 2 races in Arizona and Colorado, which are by no means gimmies. The real question is, will whoever wins up running in Montana, Georgia, Iowa, Maine, Texas, and elsewhere have an energized and determined group of people behind them? Democrats have struggled to secure the party establishment's most favored recruits in several of these races, though there are limits to the central party's recruiting wisdom. There are no guarantees of anything in politics, but it's as close to a sure thing as you'll find that these important, down-ballot elections are going to be tougher races than the presidential election. Senator Elizabeth Warren, whose presidential campaign has gained momentum in recent weeks, is polling ahead of Senator Bernie Sanders among voters in Nevada and is trailing only former Vice President Joseph R. Biden Jr. there, according to a poll released on Wednesday. The poll, which was conducted by Monmouth University, showed Mr. Biden leading comfortably with the support of 36% of Democratic voters who are likely to attend the Nevada caucuses in February, a key early contest. Ms. Warren, of Massachusetts, garnered 19% support, and Mr. Sanders, of Vermont, earned 13%. The Monmouth survey is the first Nevada poll that candidates can use to qualify for the party's debates, and it is only the second qualifying poll that has shown Ms. Warren ahead of Mr. Sanders. The other was a national survey by Quinnipiac University in April that showed Ms. Warren with just a 1-point edge over Mr. Sanders. The new poll surveyed 370 Nevada Democrats and had a margin of sampling error of plus or minus 5 percentage points. The poll was conducted June 6 to 11. The survey showed that Mr. Biden is the best-liked candidate among Nevada voters, with a favorability rating of 78%, compared with 13% who viewed him unfavorably. Ms. Warren trailed only Mr. Biden in that regard, and did particularly well with voters who classified themselves as very liberal. She has set herself apart from a field of 23 candidates seeking the Democratic nomination with a series of sweeping proposals that have made her the group's policy pace-setter. After Mr. Biden, Ms. Warren, and Mr. Sanders came Mayor Pete Buttigieg of South Bend, IND, with 7% support, and Senator Kamala Harris of California, with 6%. Former Representative Beto O'Rourke of Texas, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey and the entrepreneur Andrew Yang were each the top choice of 2% of respondents. Other candidates, such as Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota and Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, got 1% support. 11 candidates, about half of the field, polled even lower. Governor Steve Bullock of Montana was among those who received less than 1% support, and it now appears that he, along with Representative Seth Moulton of Massachusetts and Mayor Wayne Messam of Miramar, FLA, will be left out of the first Democratic debates later this month in Miami. Candidates can qualify for one of the 20 spots on the debate stage by registering 1% support in 3 qualifying state or national polls, such as the Monmouth survey. With the polling deadline looming at midnight, Mr. Bullock had reached the 1% threshold in only 2 polls by Wednesday, according to a New York Times analysis. Mr. Messam had earned 1% support in only 1 qualifying poll, and Mr. Moulton had yet to earn 1% support in any of them. Candidates can also qualify by collecting donations from 65,000 individuals, but none of those 3 candidates appeared to have hit that mark, either. While 20 candidates are on the debate stage in Miami, I will be talking directly to voters about my record of passing progressive priorities in a state Trump won, the importance of winning the places we lost, and how we are going to beat Donald Trump once and for all, Mr. Bullock said in a statement on Wednesday. It may be time for Wall Street to recalibrate expectations about the 2020 election. In a survey of institutional investors this spring, more than 70% told RBC Capital Markets they expect President Donald Trump to win a second term in 2020. But a new national poll of voters Tuesday points toward a different outcome. The Quinnipiac University poll showed the top Democratic candidate, former Vice President Joe Biden, leading Trump by a double-digit margin in a potential 2020 matchup. But it also found that 5 other Democratic contenders, every one the poll pitted against Trump, leading the president as well. Biden, who plans to blast Trump in a speech Tuesday night as both politicians campaign in Iowa, held the largest lead, 53%-40%. He built it with decided advantages among women, independents, college-educated whites, non-whites and young voters. Yet self-described Democratic Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont recorded an edge almost as large. He led Trump by 51%-42%. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts led Trump by 49%-42%. Senator Kamala Harris of California led the incumbent by 49%-41%. Even lesser-known Democratic candidates, South Bend, Indiana, Mayor Pete Buttigieg and first-term New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, ran ahead of the president by a margin beyond the poll's 3.7 percentage point margin for error. Each drew 47%, to Trump's 42%. That strong Democratic edge in potential 2020 contests came despite a slight uptick in Trump's approval rating and continued satisfaction with the state of the economy. 42% of Americans approve of his performance as president, up from 38% last month. 7 in 10 call the state of the economy excellent or good. At the same time, only 4 in 10 say Trump deserves credit for the state of the economy. And after months of slowing growth and tariff turmoil that has roiled financial markets, the proportion of Americans who see the economy getting better has fallen to 39% from 45% last August. The election remains 17 months away, leaving ample time for Trump's political fortunes to improve. Polls throughout 2016, of course, indicated that Hillary Clinton would defeat him for the presidency then. But Biden's advantage flashes a particularly bright danger sign for the incumbent. Voters have grown deeply familiar with both men. The former vice president first must survive the crowded fight for the Democratic nomination. The Quinnipiac poll showed his early bump after entering the race has faded. Biden draws 30% of the Democratic vote, down from 38% in late April, compared with 19% for Sanders, 14% for Warren, 8% for Buttigieg and 7% for Harris. At the moment, the septuagenarians atop their parties remain focused on each other. Pre-released accepts show that Biden on Tuesday night plans to call Trump an existential threat to the U.S. As he left the White House for Iowa, Trump used a simpler epithet. "Joe Biden is a dummy," he said. American millionaires would elect Joe Biden over President Donald Trump if the former vice president becomes the Democratic nominee, according to the CNBC Millionaire Survey. American millionaires would elect Joe Biden over President Donald Trump if the former vice president becomes the Democratic nominee, according to a new survey. The CNBC Millionaire Survey asked millionaires who they would choose for president if Trump runs against various opponents in 2020. Biden and Pete Buttigieg are the only Democratic nominees who beat Trump among the top Democratic candidates in a head-to-head race. Fully 53% of millionaire respondents said they would vote for Biden, compared with 39% for Trump, while 9% would be undecided. In a race between Trump and Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, wins 43% to Trump's 42%. Against Senator Bernie Sanders, Trump wins 46% to 40%. Trump beats Senator Kamala Harris among millionaires 45% to 42%, while he beats Senator Elizabeth Warren 47% to 40%. Of course, millionaire voters aren't reliable predictors of election results. Millionaires backed former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton by a comfortable margin over Trump before the 2016 election, 44% to 31%, according to the CNBC Millionaire Survey. And being favored by millionaires could be a negative for Democratic candidates, who are running on populist, anti-wealth platforms. Biden is already being attacked by his opponents for being too cozy with wealthy donors and corporate lobbyists. Yet given how much wealthy investors have prospered under the Trump presidency from lower taxes and surging stock prices and cash buybacks, millionaire support for Biden suggests that economic issues may not be their primary concern. I think what it tells us is that millionaires think that Biden is better against Trump than the other candidates, said George Walper, president of Spectrum Group, which conducts the survey. To be included in the poll, respondents had to have investable assets of $1 million or more. Of the 750 respondents, 261 were Republicans, 218 were Democrats and 261 identified as independent. Walper said that just as in 2016, millionaire voters may be underreporting their support for Trump. People's underlying opinions may not be expressed here, he said. When it comes down to who they actually vote for, that gap may narrow. Wealthy voters are also large donors, which could help Biden. Nearly half of Democratic millionaires plan to donate to the 2020 campaign or have already donated, according to the survey. That compares with less than a third of Republicans. We'll keep you posted about this and many other hot news. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the updates. Thank you and take care.